Well, I feel like I can safely say this is turning into a look for the good where you can find it kind of show. Secret Invasion, second episode, Promises. Now, sort of leaping off of my initial thought there is good in here. Right now, it's confined to primarily two things. One is Samuel L. Jackson. His scenes are really good. I really like the scene with him and Ben Mendelsohn on the train. I really like the scene with him and Don Cheadle in the restaurant. He's playing the part in these moments really well, and he's doing such a good job of sort of selling this I deal with this all the time, but also I'm under a bit more pressure than I would like to be, and maybe more than I can handle kind of mix of feelings. He's bringing that all to play, and I really like it. It's good. And Olivia Colman, the other big highlight for me. Now, like, this is kind of a personal taste thing, but the general tone of what she's doing, this whole almost overly pleasant, like, oh, don't worry about it, it's nothing, kind of way of speaking and interacting with people while also being at best morally dubious, at worst possibly sadistic. I always find that combination of traits to be intriguing, entertaining often. And so I've gotten to a point where I've gotten pretty iffy about torture scenes, if I'm being honest. And while I'm not going to say I love the torture scene that's in here, the way she plays this part makes me way more okay with it than I would be normally. And that says a lot right there. Other than that, okay, I guess. Like, there's a number of core fundamental problems. One of which is becoming clearer as we move forward, and another, was a problem last time, I just didn't note it. So the thing that was a problem last time, but I just didn't talk about it, is everybody keeps going on about this idea of, Fury's lost it. He's past it. He's past his prime. He's not who he used to be. The old Fury wouldn't have done this. You abandoned us. And I don't buy it. I get it. He's been off world for a while. And Talos was covering for him. But we haven't learned a lot about that. So it's all just tell and don't show, where they tell us he abandoned them. They tell us that he's just been up there basically doing nothing. They tell us that he seems a bit out of it. And then I watch him in a scene and I'm like, it seems like he's still got it to me. This might be a case where Samuel L. Jackson playing the part really well is actually detrimental to the narrative of what the story is trying to tell us is going on with Fury. That's not to say he seems on top of it. He doesn't. He's dealing with an awkward, at best awkward and very dangerous situation. And he has little moments, when he comes out of the restaurant, he kind of sits on the bench. He's like, but that to me doesn't seem like a guy who's past it. That just seems like a guy who knows that he's in over his head. So this whole recurring thing of Fury isn't who he used to be, or he's too old or whatever. I don't buy it. I think part of the problem with that is we haven't seen him for so long. And so this thing isn't going to take the time to really properly bring us up to speed with what's been going on with him for the last however long. But because it's not going to take the time to show us that, but at the same time, it's impacting the story, they have to just tell us and hope that we buy it. And I don't. And then there's the thing that seems to be just heading down the worst path. And it's this one I did mention last time, and that is the villains. So we are in fact we're not only doing the terrorist faction within a refugee group story, we're actually extending out to the extremist takeover leadership of the refugee group, which effectively makes anybody listening to their leaders complicit in the extremism, whether they know it or not. That's not great. And it doesn't help. Like, I think having, I can't even remember his name. I know it starts with a G, but having like the leader of this faction, having him like assume, I say assume, like make a coup for power is just, I think it's a bad idea, just narratively, because you're scaling up his influence when honestly it would have worked much better. Because like when this episode started, they zoomed in on the idea that Fury promised him over 20 years ago that he would deliver to them a new home, and he never did. And as far as personal slights, feeling like you let me and everyone else like me down, that I can work with. But when you try and expand it out to, and this guy with a clearly very personal grudge is now leading all of them like, And again, like it actually doesn't help the narrative that some of the things that are brought up, but also very clearly aren't the actual reason that he's doing any of this. Some of the things brought up are valid. The idea that they were, told we would get you a new home. The fact that they have had to subsume and hide their own culture and their own way of being, like those are legitimate grievances, but ultimately, he just seems to have a personal grudge. You made a promise and you broke it. So the more legitimate grievances are, they're being brought up, but they're just kind of there to give the illusion of depth when there isn't much here. Emilia Clarke is just kind of here. She isn't doing a lot. That's actually true of a fair bit of what's going on. It seems like there's like these attempts to get us to care about her, and like, but we just met her. We don't know her, and you're not really characterizing her that much. You're just showing us what she's doing, but I don't really have any sense of her as a person. I don't know what she's like. I know what Talos is like. I know what he's like as a person. I don't know her. So all I can go by is her actions, and she just seems to be slotted into the, she's the person following but is unsure, thinks maybe it's going too far, which, is a generic character in a setup like this. A lot of people went off on the, not necessarily in my comments, a few people brought it up, but I know in general a lot of people went off on the opening credits. I didn't talk about it last time. I guess I'll touch on it briefly here. And the fact that they're AI generated. What I'm going to say is twofold. Visually, I actually think that the opening credits, the title sequence, works really well. I think it fits what the tone and theme and uncanny feel of, people who could look like anyone should bring. I think it's actually quite fitting and effective for the kind of show this is. I also think they should absolutely not have made it with AI. Like, this is a wariness about this is a big part of why the writers are striking. And I would say effects houses should strike as well, except most of them had no union. So, like, Hollywood's a union-heavy town, but effects and animation are severely under-unionized. And understand, even those with unions still get messed with and screwed over, as is evidenced by the writers having to strike. But, I can look at the end result and go, I can see why you wanted this. But you should have taken this idea and go, that kind of slightly off-putting, weird blending effect that happens with AI art here, and then handed it to an actual artist and had them do it. Just because cutting artists out of the process, I get why, but like, we need to stop. We need to nip this in the bud now. But exactly why is a whole other conversation. So we'll move on from that. So there's the very end, which really doesn't work. So, and like, the more I think about this, the more it doesn't work. So Fury goes into this house. There's a Skrull in there. He approaches her and she's like, you forgot something. He goes back to the table at the front home, puts on a wedding ring. and hugs her. So this is meant to be Fury's wife. And we also know she's a Skrull. Now, it's unclear at this point whether or not he knows that she's a Skrull. Because either, like, my own suspicion is they want people to think he doesn't know, but it's going to turn out that he does. That's my call on this, but we'll see. It's equally plausible logistically that she either is a Skrull and he is unaware of that and they'll try and milk drama that way, or that she is a Skrull and he is aware and that try and use that as another means of connection between him and them other than Talos. We'll see. It doesn't work either way, though, because we don't know her. Fury is married? Since when? And look, I know some pedants are going to bring up like, oh, he mentioned he had a wife in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, he did that in a conversation where the entire thing was framed in a way that it was equally possible that everything he said in that conversation was a lie. So, like, and even if we accept that it's established that he had a wife, we've never seen her. We have no clue who she is. We have no clue what the relationship is. Did she know he was in space? What was going on with her the whole time he was up there? Like, I don't get. I mean, maybe we'll see in a future episode what they think this is going to benefit, but I don't get what they think they're going to achieve or add with this. I mean, we'll find out as we go down the line, but like, it's one of two things. Either they're going to try and twist the knife. Oh, he didn't know his wife was a Skrull. Okay, but we don't know her. So yeah, sure, it's a sense of betrayal to him, but as an audience, like, oh no, the person we just met isn't the person that we were told they were and we spent no time with anyways. Oh, the horror. Or like, it's going to turn out that he actually is, and like, okay, but what is that going to add? And so help me if she gets fridged. So help me if they introduce a wife for Fury just to kill her. Whether it is killed because like she betrayed him, or whether it is she actually loves him and is killed. Either way, if they introduce this character just to kill her, I'm going to be real ticked off. Right now, I'm not ticked off just because I can't bring myself to care. I look at what's going on in this, and part of me thinks I should be more upset about how not well put together this is. Except I can't be, because a big part of why it isn't well put together is that I don't care. I don't care about these characters, most of them, and I don't really care about these events because the show has done very little to get me invested in them. So here we are. Just big old pile of... Two episodes in, and it's not getting better. Again, there is still some good stuff in here. Samuel L. Jackson and Olivia Colman are highlights, but that is not enough. Too much of the rest of this is not moving in a way that is interesting or new or feels like it's worth getting invested in. Thankfully, it's only 6 episodes, so I will stick with it, but I don't have a lot of hope at this point. Like I said at the beginning, I'll keep looking for the good. I'll point it out when I see it, but I expect most of the runtime of these reviews will be talking about the bad. We'll see. What did you think about this episode? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe are of a big assistance, but don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Massive thanks to my Patreon supporters, and in particular, I want to thank Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Oliver B., Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Jen, Leotha Boyd, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Fernabulax the Poodle, Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Caspero, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, David Hall, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. Thanks for your support. You can get your name in the credits too if you feel like hearing me possibly struggle with it for several times before getting it right.